Sealant spoke with.
Back, everyone. We are reconvening the meeting following executive session. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded by Westborough TV. For all those able, please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, thank you. It being 6:30 on the nose. Well, first, do we have anyone here for open forum? No. Seeing no one, we move to the next item on our agenda, the hearing that is being continued for 2024 innkeeper hotel permit renewal for Extended Stay America at the 1800 Computer Drive and 19 Connector Road locations.
While they're coming up, you do have in front of you a follow-up inspection report from the fire department. I think that we do anticipate the deputy chief joining us, though I know that there is a call in town right now, so I'm not sure if he's there.
Hi there, good evening. Yeah, he was actually at the hotels today.
Yep, so I'm just talking about him coming to this
Okay, sure.
hearing.
No, absolutely.
And so we do have the folks here from Extended Stay and can speak to what's going on, and then you have this document to refer to as well.
Okay. Thank you. If you could please introduce yourselves.
Hi there, good evening. My name is Joffrey Nieto. I'm the district manager for the hotels here in the Westborough market.
And I'm Ryan Bogley, again, the general manager of the two properties.
All right, welcome back. All right, thank you. I don't know if you want to talk through, I guess, the progress you've made in the past couple of weeks and what
Yeah,
may or may
I mean,
be outstanding and sort of what the timeline is for that.
I mean, the chief was out there, the chief deputy was out there today with Joffrey and myself. I would say 90% of everything you guys have asked for has been completed. We do have a couple of things that are still work orders in, and a few of the things that we did complete, like the caps, they came out and completed. Unfortunately, they looked at them today, realized that they were the wrong caps, and those will be replaced, and they'll be there on Friday. So we put the wrong size reducer on there. Well, the right size reducer, but they used a standard size. They used a standard one. The town of Westborough uses a special, what do they call it? Iron tip one. What we're supposed to have. So that'll be replaced this week.
Yes, and we really went into detail with the list from 2023 and basically showing that we complied with the majority of the items. The one thing we also did is we've had the annual inspection for 2024 completed yesterday.
Yes, they were on site for both.
For both hotels. So obviously, if there's anything non-compliant there, that'll be within the next few weeks to get that into compliance. So the one thing that we noticed was that last year's annual inspection was completed early in January of 2023. Within the month of March, all the non-compliant items were rectified.
They do have the reports. I gave those reports today. I was able to get those from our corporate office, and that shows that those items that were on those fire panels, the dead batteries, all those were resolved. So they do have that in hand.
Okay. Thank you. All right, any questions?
So what's the status on the fire hydrant testing?
Out of depending on which hotel, right now, the one for
Let's start with
Connector Road.
19 Connector.
19 Connector, yes. So there's actually 4 fire hydrants there. 3 on our property specific. We actually own the land where the O'Reilly's is at. There's one there also. That one is actually going to be tested within the next few days.
Yes, so the
That
other
wasn't
3 were
added.
serviced yesterday. Were checked as part of the annual inspection. But following our meeting last time, I presented the fire report to them because I didn't have that uploaded. I still have that present in my possession today. So that has been uploaded since the hydrants, they did say were acceptable after the meeting last time when we sat downstairs after the meeting. We met in the cafeteria on the first floor. So they went over those as well. So after that hearing, they were in the hands of the chief deputy.
So all of the hydrants have passed?
19
still one that needs to be tested?
connectors have passed besides the one that we did not service because it was on Owen O'Leary's property, but we are taking that onto our hands because we own that property, so that'll be serviced. The other ones were serviced at 1800 Computer Drive. It showed that 2 of the 3 were not flushing, so that has been a quote out to be fixed. So those will be getting done within the next few weeks here because they just did the inspection yesterday, and they gave that quote to us. They brought that to my attention at the desk yesterday, which means CFP will come out and fix those hydrants and get them flushed out the way they should be.
Just while we're talking about hydrants, have the reports that you are in possession of, have those actually been uploaded to Permit Pro in the process?
I tried to. I'm going to try it again tomorrow. They came to my hotel in the afternoon, then we had our district meeting and things like that today. They are present in my folder right now.
Yep.
I did email them to them, but I also will upload them. But they do have last year's ones.
Yep.
The ones that just got serviced yesterday, that report should be to me by the end of the week. Any report I get from this inspection will go right up. So basically, we'll just go on top of the ones that I did for 23. So we just should have our 24 ones in this week.
Okay, and when you said you emailed to them, who is them?
They gave me the preventative something fire.
Fire prevention?
Yes,
Yep.
fire prevention at westboro.gov,
Yep.
mass.gov. So
Okay.
he did receive it in front of me. He acknowledged that he received it on his phone. So he said thank you for that.
Okay. Alan, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just, while
No,
we were
it's
talking about
it's
hydrants.
okay. Those were my next questions about the reports and where we're at. I'm looking at a memo from the deputy chief. There's still issues with fire doors being propped open.
I don't believe so. Not that was brought to my attention. We have fixed that issue. That was multiple weeks ago.
This is from today, so
From today?
when they were there today, they were propped open. And the deputy chief is actually here now, so we can probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says here that I think the door stops were removed, but then they were propped open with other items.
I mean, we'll follow up with the site level if it's something of training of the staff to make sure they don't do that, but we definitely will follow up with the staff at the site level.
Thank you.
Maybe even a sign that says, do not prop open.
Well, we may take the items that they're using to, is it rather a doorstop, the little, rubber ones they do, we'll take those
One of
away.
these was a vacuum cleaner, so
Okay.
it'd be kind of hard to remove that because you probably
Absolutely.
need it. But
so-
maybe it could.
Yeah,
go
a little
Signage,
training,
this
and
door must
internal
remain
training,
closed.
yeah, some internal training that we'll have to make sure of the safety for the hotel,
Yep.
for the guests and the associates. We'll make sure that's completed.
Right, thank you. Questions for the chief, fire chief, deputy fire chief?
Yeah, I'd love to hear Deputy Doucette's assessment.
Deputy chief? Thank you very much.
Apologize for being late. Good evening. Deputy Chief Steve Doucette. Apologize for being late. I made the mistake of coming from the fire station across the cemetery. So that was a bad move. Thanks. So the doors being propped open, that's something we saw today. That was rectified. That's not an issue. Yep.
Okay.
I missed other questions you had, but we have significant progress towards the issues that we had a couple of weeks ago. So we're confident we're going to continue to work with the extended stay to resolve these issues, and we're going to stay on top of their progress. So we're not 100% there, but we're almost there.
Okay.
I don't know what questions you asked, and but,
No, that's okay. I mean, I
yeah.
think the most important thing is that you're comfortable that that the effort is there and.
yes, absolutely. Inspector Milligan and I visited both sites today. There's nothing, life-threatening there. Everything that's left is something we can work with them going forward. And we will stay on top of it.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So, I mean, we can certainly continue this. Our next meeting is the 23rd. I mean, it would be our expectation that this would all be resolved by then. But we can certainly continue this hearing until the 23rd. Any other
Nope.
thoughts or
No,
questions?
I would just say, I appreciate certainly the work of our fire department to work collaboratively, and to the gentlemen at Extended Stay and the staff for prioritizing this.
No.
So thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you both very much for coming again tonight. Deputy Chief, thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Okay.
Now, we thought you'd whiz by a minute ago when we heard the truck heading somewhere, so.
So,
Just need to make a motion.
Is it for February you mentioned?
No, our next meeting is in 2 weeks, January 23rd.
Just make a motion to continue the hearing to 6:15 that evening.
so I would move to continue the public hearing for 2024 Innkeeper Hotel Permit Renewal for Extended Stay America at 1800 Computer Drive and 19 Connector Road to January, I'm sorry, you just said it, 23rd.
6:15.
at 6:15 PM.
Second?
6:15? Yeah, okay.
Okay. All those in favor? 3-0. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Moving on, we have a presentation of the draft dog park design.
Hi, I'm Jen Kirkland, the Recreation Director. We have Kyle from KZLA Architect Firm, hopefully on Zoom. So I just thought I would start by kind of walking us through the timeline a little bit of how we got here, and then I'll let Kyle take over to discuss the work that he has done thus far on designing our future dog park. So as you're aware, on April of last year, 2023, we were awarded the Stanton Foundation to design grant to design and ultimately construct a dog park. This past summer, we went out, put RFPs out for architects to design the dog park. We retained the services from KZLA. This firm has a lot of experience not only designing dog parks, but designing dog parks designing dog parks for recipients of the Stanton Foundation grant, which is helpful because the grant has certain parameters that we have to follow in order to be awarded the funds. In December of just this last month, we held a public information and input session, which was very successful. We're here now tonight for Kyle to present to you the work that he has done thus far.
Recording in progress.
And that's okay. And
Recording stopped.
oh, there he is. Hopefully within the next month or so, we will have construction bid documents ready to be sent to Stanton for their approval, and then be able to go out to bid for a construction firm to construct the site. And we're targeting fall of 2024 to have the park open. So that's all I have for right now. This is Kyle here. I'll turn it over to him, and I'm here, and Melinda's also here if there are questions after.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I'll share my screen and give you a little bit more of a sense of the proposed design. So thank you. My name is Kyle Zick. I'm a landscape architect with Kyle Zick Landscape Architecture. We're a landscape architecture firm based in Boston. You should see my screen. It says Westborough Dog Park on the top.
Yes.
And just for orientation, this is the site we're talking about. This is Lyman Street, Chauncey Lake, and this is either Hospital Road or Dr. Carter Fuller here, and the dog park location is here. So what are we trying to do? I think Jen probably touched on this, but we're trying to create a safe and accessible enclosed space for off-leash dog use and their owners. And we're gonna do that in a way that's responsible, given that we're near the lake, near wetlands, and we want to make connections to the existing sidewalk network, the other recreational areas within this part of Westborough. Where are we in our design process? We've already started design. We've got some designs that are pretty far along. We've gotten good input from the community not that long ago. So here we are at this third bullet point where we've got the refined designs, we have a sense of the cost, and we'll share that with you. And then with positive feedback tonight, we would go forward with refining the design, producing construction documents, and as Jen mentioned, we'll get this out to bid. Now, with some of the funding from the Stanton Foundation, there are some requirements of what the dog park has to include. So the items on the left are what we have to include because of the funding. We have to have fencing to enclose the dog park, a minimum 5 feet tall, potable water, shade for dogs and owners, a dual gate entryway, accessible parking, dog waste bags and receptacles, seating, signage, and surfacing. And I'll show you on the plan where all these things are. And then optional things, it's really just the agility play components that, can be something that can just really be an amenity that can be added. So here's the first view of the dog park design. So Dr. Solomon Carter Fuller Way is here. Lyman would be at the very corner. Chauncey Lake is off here to the left. These blue lines here are the delineated wetland. We had a wetland scientist locate those. And then there's a 100-foot offset from those. That is the jurisdiction of the Town Conservation Commission and the state DEP. So we're trying to locate this in a way so very little of it is in that 100-foot buffer. And we're trying to have the dog park on fairly flat land and have space that there's a small amount of parking. It's visible, but not too close to the road. But I wanted to step back for a second. I'll get into all the details, but just to explain how big this is and how it relates to other parks, because I think that's a lot of the feedback we got at the first community meeting. So what we're proposing and what I just showed is just under 16,000 square feet. That's within the fenced area, the red dashed line here. And how's that compared to other ones that people have mentioned to us? There's the Tufts Dog Park in Westborough that is 27,000 square feet. A Farm Pond Dog Park in Framingham, 31,000, and then a dog park in Hopkinton that's about 19,000. So while it's smaller than those, I don't really feel like we should go any closer because it gets to this overlook. We're too close to the intersection, and we don't want to go closer to the wetland. So then the dog park itself. I'll start with how you would approach the dog park and how you would use it. If you were coming by car, you could park in one of these 10 parking spaces. There's 9 spaces on gravel and 1 paved space that's accessible. Or you could walk in on the sidewalk, come in on a new sidewalk that connects to that, all leading you to the entrance to the dog park here. There's a gate that leads to, think of it as a vestibule. And that's your location before you can get to another gate to take you to the small dog area or to a gate to the large dog area. And the Stanton Foundation does recommend or actually require that we have that kind of separation. In that vestibule, we have a leash holder, the dog waste bag dispenser, the trash receptacle, and the drinking fountain and the hose bib. This white color you see in the plan is a concrete pavement. That's good for anchoring these kind of things. Then the fence is what's here around the perimeter and dividing the small dog from the large dog. That pavement extends into each area, and there's 2 benches on pavement, so they're fully accessible for the small dog area and the large dog. And then common to both is a shade structure. It's a roof, basically, benches on either side of the fence that the owners or dogs could use that for shade. And there's a separate shade structure in the large dog area where I'm pointing now. We also know that we can use the existing trees that are fairly large here as for shade in the dog park. So north is up. So the sun will be coming from the morning on the right-hand side, across the bottom of the page to the left-hand side. So we'll get quite a bit of shade out of those trees, but we're not going to just rely on that. Each one of these green circles is a proposed tree that we would have around the perimeter, because we definitely heard feedback from the community that shade is really valuable. Other things to point out are the surfacing. It's a pea stone surfacing because grass doesn't survive in a dog park. Wood chips generally hold on to moisture and aren't as hygienic. And then we have a few of those agility features in the large dog and small dog area. Right now, the projected cost for everything shown here is around $365,000. And that falls within the budget that Stanton and I believe it's the ARPA money combined would cover that. So then next steps are bidding. If we have positive feedback, we could bid it as soon as this month, and then construction in spring and summer with an opening of the dog park in the fall, like Jen mentioned. So I'm happy to take comments or questions, and thanks so much for listening.
All right, thank you very much. Someone like to start?
Yeah, I'll start. So thank you so much for the presentation, Jen, for being here and for being remotely as well. Couple quick questions. Do we have a sense for the trees that are depicted in green that would be new, what size we would be planting at?
Yes, we would typically we like to plant about a 3-inch caliper tree. So depending on the species, it's, 16 to 20 feet tall at that size.
Okay. And do we know at this point in time just what kind, just generally? I mean, obviously native or whatever, I'm just curious.
Yeah, we do native deciduous trees, generally shade trees, so larger scale. We might have some smaller scale near that small building or near the entrance just for a little bit more accent, but we would still use native for those as well.
Okay. And is there a reason by design, I mean, obviously we don't want dogs to run into them while they're running around, but why we don't put them inside the play area itself? I've seen it both ways in dog parks.
Yeah, typically if we have them inside of a dog park, we'd want them fenced off because they just can't take the abuse.
Okay. Of many types, I get it. Okay.
Yes.
And you said pea stone surface?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Do we have an approximate size, I just can't tell, for the shading area in the middle that borders both large and small areas? Approximately how big is that area?
Yeah, it's a little bigger. I mean, you can see the parking space, think of it as 10 by 20. So it's a little larger than a parking space.
Okay. Great. And Jen, approximately how many people attended the public
Yep.
session, input
I
session?
would say just over 20, I would
Okay.
say.
Okay.
Yep.
And I should mention too that we've had some feedback, just kind of emailed in or people stopping by. So
Okay. And was it generally, since I don't know, was the meeting televised?
yes, it was.
It was.
Mhm.
I have not watched it. So, was it generally supportive of
I would say
this?
so. Yes, they
Okay.
were concerned. The original drawing was a little bit smaller, and the feedback was that the surrounding dog parks, which is why Kyle showed you Hopkinton and Tufts, that theirs were much bigger.
Yep.
And shade was also mentioned, but overall very supportive of the project. Just those were the two themes that came through: was the shade and in the size.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. No more questions.
Okay, you asked mine.
I'm good. Yeah, I think just a couple quick ones. So if I understood correctly, the original design was about 16,000 square feet. And this one's closer to 21?
No, this one is 16,000, and previously it only went, if you can see my cursor, it only went to about here. So we've grown it by about a third. So we were probably more like 11 or 12,000 square feet previously.
Got it. Okay, so wait, so I'm sorry, so what size was the original?
The original was 11 or 12,000. What you're seeing on the screen now is 16,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's just a little confusing because in our slide deck we're seeing a proposed at almost 22,000 square feet. That's why.
Well, I'll flip to that page. This is the Westborough one that we're showing, and it's 16,000.
I think the confusion, it's probably my fault. Kyle, you had sent me something shortly after the info session, maybe, and that's what I had forwarded off.
That's okay. We're,
Oh,
it's okay.
sorry.
We're fine. We're fine if
And I
we
think,
know the
yeah.
numbers.
So 16 it is. got it.
Yes, that's what Kyle says.
Got it. No, yeah, because what he'd said, yeah, what I.
Yep.
But no, that makes sense now. So, and if we look at this location on the other side of the street from the dog park, is that where the cricket field?
Not exactly. We're directly across is what we call our multi-purpose field, which is
Okay.
used intermittently, and the cricket pitch would be kind of up and diagonally away across. So there's plenty of space in between.
Okay, and even, we look at the parking we have here, the 9 spaces, but also you can park right along that street.
Yep, and then there's 2 other parking lots at that facility. What I anticipate is that a lot of the people that are parking, maybe down by the trails are gonna just walk their dogs up and around, stop at the dog park, walk back. So,
And then one last thing, so the dual entry up front, sort of, so you can bring your dog in and get him off leash before you let him into the park, makes a lot of sense. It does mention then double doors at each end. Would people be using those, or would they only be entering with their dog through the dual entrance?
Oh, it's a good question. These double gates on either end are for maintenance, so you could get a vehicle in there, or Bobcat or whatever it happened to be. But it's really important to have that maintenance access.
Got it, but not for patron access. Okay.
Right. It'll be locked otherwise.
All right. Terrific. I think that covered me.
I just had a couple more questions, sorry. You don't have to answer this now, but I assume that there will be some signs around kind of the rules of using the park, if there's an issue, how to report it.
Yep.
And then, I know from the Stanton, we discussed this when initially, this would be open because you can't restrict who can come.
Right.
So
Right.
I do understand that, but will there be some signage, Jen?
Yep, we'll work, I'll work with Melinda on
Yep.
that. Things that she want, any kind of specific rules, but we're not gonna, really, I don't think reinvent the wheel too much. There's a lot of other dog parks
Yeah.
around, but yeah, certainly work with Melinda, and anything that she needs to see on that sign, we'll
Yeah.
put it on there. Yep,
There are a lot of creative signs out there,
Yeah.
so, that get people's attention.
Yep.
We had mentioned this when the cricket pitch came forward. I just think now, as we're using this space more, we really need, and I'm also looking to our town manager, better signage there around what direction vehicular traffic can move.
Yep.
Because people are going the wrong way all the time according to the existing signs, and in fairness, it's not well marked. So I can't impress enough that we, have a game plan for that, and that we have a budget for it.
Yeah, I just went out with our assistant DPW director just a couple weeks ago, now that our parks lead person is gone, and signage actually came up, and getting a signage plan, a budget. And we talked a lot at the state hospital about getting clear signage up there. What we want all the signs at all of our fields to say sort of the same thing, and then get people driving the correct way up at the state hospital. So
Yeah.
we're working on it,
Okay,
and so
thank you.
DPW is aware as well.
Appreciate that.
Mhm.
Of course.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I'm excited.
Thank you.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Do we need a vote?
Nope.
Nope, no vote.
Just- Okay, so prior,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you want to,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
oh, thank you very much, yes, well done.
Thank you.
Leave the guy
Thank
hanging
you,
on
Kyle.
the line.
So I think we want to touch on 12,
Yes.
which is, oh, let me get to that, okay.
Do you want me to start?
Well, I get to my page, sure, go right ahead. Cover for me, thank you.
Sure. So we actually are going to take up the amendment, or I'm sorry, the request to amend the composition of Sustainable Westborough prior to taking up the appointments. When you look at your agenda, you can see that there are actually two folks who are interested in serving as associate members, Sustainable Westborough. Later in the meeting, we have an agenda item for amending the composition, so we're going to take that up at this time. There are 2 requests related to the amendment of the composition of Sustainable Westborough. One is to add an additional associate member, and then the other request was sent to me by both the Sustainable Westborough chair and the planning board chair, requesting that the planning board representative be able to be either a member of the planning board or the director of planning. So who staffs the planning board. So that request was made based on the current planning board members' ability to attend those meetings, but understanding the importance of having someone there. So, so again, the request would be to add an additional associate member to Sustainable Westborough, and then also to change the planning board representative to planning board representative or director of planning.
All right. Thank you very much.
Can I just ask a question?
yes.
Do the associate members vote? I don't recall.
No.
Are they
No.
voting? They're
No,
non-voting?
sorry.
Yeah, okay. I didn't think so, but I wasn't sure. Check a motion?
That'd be great. Thank you.
So I'd move to amend the composition of Sustainable Westborough with the planning department representation change from planning board representative to planning board representative or director of planning, and to add an associate member to the committee.
Second.
All right. All those in favor? 3-0. So now there are 2 associate member slots. Right?
So there were already 2.
So now
There's a third.
now there's
Yep.
2.
Yep.
Okay.
Great.
All right. So now we go back to 5. And we have multiple requests for appointments, and I think, as we always do, we thank everybody applying for being willing to participate and support the town in a volunteer position. It is, we are grateful for all those who come forward and lend their expertise to the town. So thank you very much. Without further ado, I guess.
Yep. So I would move to appoint Dia Carthrick and Emmeline C. as student liaisons to the Cultural Council for a term to end June 30, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor? 3-0.
Okay. I move to appoint Stephen Herrera as a trustee of the Affordable Housing Trust for a term to expire June 30th, 2025, and Sarah Rundell for a term to expire June 30th, 2024.
Second?
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? 3-0. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, I was going to say.
Sarah's here. Sure. If Sarah want to come up and do a brief introduction.
That'd be great.
Hi, Ed Bain, 5 Thomas Rice Drive, Chair of the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust. I'm glad to introduce Sarah Rundell, who you've just voted in. Any questions or?
No, just who are you, and
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Sarah Rundell. I moved here in 2019, just before COVID hit, and I've been thinking about getting involved in some way, and I joined Eastern Bank in 2023, 22. It's been a while now, and there's a team there that really supports affordable housing. So they started inviting me to these events and getting me up to speed on all the different pieces that go into it, the 7 years of planning and all the different groups. And I thought, well, there's a trust right in my own town that I can look into. So I reached out to Ed, and here I am. And I think you probably saw my letter of interest. I've been a corporate attorney for about 15 years now. So hopefully there's some skill sets I can bring to the table to support these efforts here in Westborough. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
We
Thank you
are
very much.
excited to have you
I think
join us.
Steve had mentioned that he was traveling and might not be able to make it back here.
Okay.
So,
Sure, take your seat. Sure.
if I can, I just want to commend Jen and the group on the dog park. And for anybody who's a golfer, you would notice that it is a dog leg to the left.
Very good. Sarah, thank you so much. Really
Thank you.
appreciate you
Yes.
stepping up, and also to
Yes.
Steve. It's
Look
great.
forward to working with you. Thank
great.
We
you.
will see you Thursday morning.
Right away. All right.
Okay.
Well timed.
Okay.
We can
Yep.
announce it if
Yep.
you want to say.
Yeah, okay.
No, it's-
Okay. So, sorry, I'm trying to scroll here. I would move to appoint, so we're doing 2.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to get the names.
Is it Nitya?
Nitya, Talahala, as well as
Gerald.
Gerald Quee, thank you, as associate members to Sustainable Westborough, and for a term to end June 30, 2024.
Second.
Apologies for any mispronunciations of
Yes.
names.
Yes, and Gerald, thank you for being here. All those in favor? 3-0. No, thank you very much for being willing to serve.
Thank you.
All right. Item 6 on the agenda. Oh, we're-
Yeah, I know, yeah.
To the 23rd.
Yep. So item number 6, the stormwater utility fund rate setting and approval of regulations. We've asked to be moved to the 23rd. We will be passing over that this evening. Number 7, request to award American Rescue Plan funds.
So you have in your packet an update of really where we're at with the American Rescue Plan funding. There's also on our website, we have a great accounting of where the funds have been obligated. So in the beginning of December, I sent an email out to department heads or folks who had been awarded funds, asking if their projects were expected to use all of the funds, or that if there would be a remaining balance that would fall to the available funds. And so, and then the question was also asked if whether or not there was additional funds needed to complete any of the projects that had already been awarded. So in going through that process, we identified that the school department is returning $116,000 from the HVAC project, which that project has been bid. And then the police department will be returning about just under $84,000 for the hiring of 3 police officers, and that's really related to the timing of the hiring, and then also what degrees they have and other things are compensated for. And then we currently have a remaining balance that has never been obligated of just under $105,000. So going through that process, we did learn that the chlorine booster project in the DPW, which was awarded about $930,000, had actually come in over the awarded amount, and so there was additional funds needed of about $400,000. So just adding that all up, there's approximately $354,000 of available funds currently. This project needs the $400,000. I'm sorry, there's about $300,000. Additionally, the DPW director had requested reallocation of $50,000 from the lead service line project that had previously been awarded to this project in order to get to that amount that had been bid. So we're about $45,000 short for the chlorine booster project. My recommendation is that the board reallocate that $50,000 and then award up to $350,000 of available funds to this project. Because we do anticipate some additional funds to fall to the available balance. Some of those projects are the dog park project. If you'll remember, a lot of what was allocated through ARPA was contingency funds, so we do expect some of that to fall back to the bottom line. Also, we still have the awarded funds for the 2 youth and family services projects. I know that we've talked about that as moving as being available for a potential contract for clinical services, but the expectation is that we won't need all of that money. And there's about over $200,000 in those projects. So this vote as proposed would allow us to move money to this project as it becomes available when those other projects move forward. And this would allow the DPW director to move forward with the signing of the contract and starting this project, which is really important because, as you all know, these funds have to be obligated by the end of 2024, which really means either completed or under contract. So, but Chris is here to answer any questions that you might have about this specific project.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll say drinkable water's good.
Yeah,
We're very much in support of that.
yes.
Um,
I had a question, just so I'm clear. Initially, there was a potential for $50,000 from the ARPA funds to move from what had been allocated to the lead service line project for the chlorine booster. Obviously, Chris feeling like that was kind of a higher priority, but what you're saying is total of $400,000 to the chlorine booster, and you feel like $50,000 that would have been allocated is going to be there through some combination of ARPA funds.
No.
No.
Sorry, it's just a lot to follow.
Sorry.
So, no. So reallocate the $50,000 from that lead service project to the chlorine booster.
Okay.
Allocate the rest of the available balance. The available balance plus the $50,000 in the lead service project
Okay.
equals that 354. So
Okay.
then we expect to get another 46,000 approximately minimum that we can move over immediately without going back through this process.
Okay.
So yeah,
But we're not diminishing this lead service line project.
we would be removing. Yes,
We
we're
would be.
reallocating. So if you look at the motion that I provided, the motion would be to reallocate the $50,000 from the lead service project to the chlorine booster project, and then also allocate up to $350,000 of available funds.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry if I'm being dense on this, but you said that there may be additional surplus funds from existing ARPA projects.
Right.
We don't know that amount. You gave a couple examples.
Right.
Would that then go back specifically to the lead service project, or is there yet another iteration?
So none of the money as it became available would go to the lead service project.
Okay.
That would, that could potentially come back to you through the same process that we've been using. The additional, the reason I said allocate up to the 350 is because there is a delta between what we know we have available and the 400,000, which is about 46,000.
Okay.
So as that money drops to the bottom line, we would just move it over to the chlorine booster project, because that really rounds out the contingency portion of
Understood.
that project.
Okay.
And maybe Chris can talk to this. I don't think he probably thought he was going to be talking about the lead line service project tonight, but if I remember correctly, the 50,000 I think wasn't the entirety of that
Correct.
project. It was kind of getting it started, and so you're sort of pushing that off until after town meeting, right, in order to be able to complete this
Yeah.
higher priority.
Yeah, so the priority is this project, because we already have an opportunity to sign a contract and get going. If, as we progress with this project and the other projects develop, and then more money is available, then, like Christy said, we would come back to the table along with anybody else and say, hey, we'd like to pursue this lead service line project for 50,000 or whatever the number is, and we'd have another bite at the apple just like everybody else.
Okay.
In the lead line service project what's the timeline on that? And I know you've presented it to us before, but.
So this year, we're doing the inventory,
Right.
and but the 50,000 that we had requested through ARPA was for the next phase, which is the mitigation of any, if we find any issues and we have to go start investigating those issues, meaning hire a contractor, dig a hole, that 50,000 was to get us started to do that part of it. So we've got another 2 years basically
Okay.
to pursue that.
Yeah, I guess all my questions are, I think the lead service line project is very important, and we've already gone through a very defined process, for ARPA funds. So to the extent that we don't, the process is the process, but I think we allocated those funds to it. So if funds become available, I would be supportive of making sure they go back into this project so that we are building up our reserve, if you will, for that next year opportunity. So I just wanted to express that.
Okay.
Okay. I'll make the motion.
Sure.
So I move to reallocate $50,000 of American Rescue Plan ARPA funds from the lead service line project to the chlorine booster project, and further to allocate up to $350,000 of available ARPA funds to the Department of Public Works Chlorine Booster Project.
Second.
Any other questions?
No.
Can I
All
just add that we keep talking about the process. So this went through the finance team, which met and recommended it. The AFC met last night and voted unanimously to support the motion that you've just made. So thanks.
Thank you very much. All right, so finally, all those in favor? 3-0. Just thank you very much for coming. Thanks. Okay, next. I guess there's a couple more things to stick around for. Okay. All right. Intention, the next one is the intention to lay out as a public way both Ed Waters Way and Zara Drive. I just-
Someone.
This is something you've done before and very recently. It's part of a process that I don't need to outline here, but many steps to accepting a road, and this is really your first formal step, where you are acknowledging that there's a request to accept these two roads, and you express your intent to lay out the road, and then you send that to the planning board, which is what you'll vote on tonight, and the planning board has an opportunity to provide some feedback to you, do their process, and then you'd go to the next step of voting to move the process forward to town meeting.
Okay.
So these are two roads that, one's Zara Drive on the east side of town and one's Ed Waters Way on the west. Roads you're probably familiar with, but small subdivisions that have been in development for a long time, and the developers have completed the work they need to complete. And so they have requested that the town accept the roads. The process is basically carried through by us to you and the planning board and ultimately town meeting. And from the DPW perspective, the developers have met the requirements to allow the town to accept the road.
Okay. Thank you. And I guess the expectation is at this annual town meeting, there would be warrant articles. That's sort of
Correct.
in two
Yep.
months' time. Okay. All right. Excellent.
I move to intend to lay out Ed Waters Way as a public way as shown on a plan entitled Street Acceptance Plan of Land, Reservoir Estates, Ed Waters Way in Westborough, Massachusetts, owned by Westborough Reservoir Estates LLC, dated September 10th, 2023, revised through December 20th, 2023, prepared by Greer and Hamlin, Inc. The Select Board hereby submits the plan to the Planning Board for its comments and recommendations pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Sections 810 and 811.
Second.
All those in favor?
Okay. I move to intend to lay out Zero Drive as a public way as shown on a plan entitled Subdivision As-Built Plan, Zero Gardens Acceptance Plan of Zero Drive in Westborough, Massachusetts, owned by A.A. Farouk Ansari, dated September 28th, 2023, prepared by WDA Design Group. The Select Board hereby submits the plan to the Planning Board for its comments, recommendations pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Sections 810 and 811.
Second?
So for purpose of discussion,
Sure.
you can just share some thoughts. So appreciate, Chris, your comments that from DPW's perspective, this is sort of ready to go, and you got all the necessary steps and permitting and processes have been completed. It is my understanding that there remain some matters within that development, issues that have been raised by residents that relate to water in their residences. Again, I want to be clear, it's my understanding, I'm not an engineer, it has nothing to do with the road itself and the public way that we're talking about. But I mention it because I do want the, and the comments will be seen by the planning board. My understanding is once this road is accepted through the process that is lengthy, is that it creates a 5-year moratorium on affecting the public right away. So, for example, if any of these residences had to create a pathway for drainage to a public way, there would be a 5-year moratorium, is that correct?
That's correct.
Unless by exception, I believe Chris would grant that, and of course, obvious exceptions can be granted, but we don't like to do that because it creates other challenges down the road. So I will vote in favor to move this through the process, but I am concerned with the potential conflict that this could create for town and kind of residents and this developer going forward. So I just want to be on record for sharing that.
Well, do we have a sense of how serious? I assume this is stormwater infiltration, or?
I don't believe it is, but I'm
No, it's
runoff.
I don't know personally,
Okay.
where it's generating from. It's not something that is, it's not from the roof and going down the gutter and coming out into the right of way. Like, that's something we would have corrected or addressed. It's likely groundwater or something to do with the drainage in the foundation and that sort of thing. But a potential solution, I think what Shelby is mentioning, is that, they could put a sump pump in, and then they'd have to put that water somewhere, and so they could ask potentially to send it to the street or to the town's drainage system, and that requires them to cut the road and do other things. Potentially, that's all potential.
Right.
I'm not saying that's gonna happen, I'm just saying that's what
Right.
I think
Yeah.
you're saying.
Right, so from a matter of process, I think it's appropriate to move the process forward. My concern in doing that, and Chris has said that from DPW's engineering perspective, like, everything has been done kind of as it needs to have been done. But by moving this process forward, it could potentially, I think, impact residents who say, well, now it's a public right of way, now we can do X, Y, and Z, and they can't impact that road for 5 years unless an exception, or that public way, unless an exception is granted. So I'm worried about, like, creating a little bit of a tangled ball of yarn here. So I think I don't know if residents will come forward and speak at the planning board meeting. And I know our community development director is well aware of this and has been working with the developer to understand these matters.
Are the homeowners currently in some sort of negotiation or with the developer, I guess?
I think there are discussions. I can't
Okay.
say that they would be considered negotiation, but I'm not
Negotiations.
privy to that.
Okay.
So, again, in the interest of moving the process forward, or, I would certainly, we could have the parties back to understand what is the issue, and does it make sense to move it forward, or do other things need to be addressed right now?
I mean, even though exceptions can be granted, the 5-year moratorium rule is there because when you have a nice final
Right.
road, you really don't want to start cutting holes in it, right?
Right.
Because
Correct.
any hole allows for moisture, expansion, contraction, potholes. You end up with maintenance very quickly.
Right.
Um,
And this development has been developed for a while.
yeah,
It's taken a while to get to where we are.
it's been a long time.
Which candidly raises my concern with moving this forward. Because I don't want this to become an issue for the town that should have been resolved.
Because
As a private matter.
if this is a groundwater issue and the only real solution is the developer putting in some sort of underground, French drain system, right? That's going to divert water away from the homes. It's going to go downhill. It's going to go to the street, or some other water management system. I guess if there's any likelihood that the road's going to be cut up or need to be cut up within the next 5 years, I'd prefer to hold off accepting the road and not go forward with the process until we're confident that the developer and the homeowners have a solution and that solution's implemented so that when we accept the road, we're not worried about whether or not there are exceptions coming.
That's my concern.
Yeah.
So if we look at this process from here in its entirety, we have this vote here tonight, it goes to the planning board. The step after that, I guess, is it comes back for us to put it on the town warrant.
Correct. So we would have another
A chance to say no.
chance at it, and potentially in between time,
Because the planning board's recommendation could be, don't do this.
and it's non-binding.
Right, but
But
the
we
recommendation can go back and say, don't accept the road until this issue is addressed.
Correct. So I'm a little bit like, I would like the planning board, I mean, they've been very involved with this development, so they certainly have probably knowledge and context that I don't. So for that reason, I would be interested in moving the process forward. We do have another pass at this, if you will. So for that reason, I would be supportive of the process up to that point. But I think we could hear from residents about this between, kind of now and then. I think we need to be mindful of it. I know typically this feels like okay,
Right.
it's a public way, we just
Yep.
went for a quick farm. It
Yep.
was, a couple meetings, but I think this one is a little more complicated, given there are several residencies that have this issue.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, no, thank you for
Yep.
bringing this up.
Could-
I feel like the planning board is sort of the area more appropriate than us to examine this, I think, with their resources.
Can I amend the motion to add and request that Shelby send a memo to the planning board asking them to consider these concerns?
It should be from the board, not
For
from an
full,
individual
on behalf of the
member.
board, right.
Or, yeah,
That the board send a memo to the, with our approval, or send a memo that they explore these issues specifically.
yeah. Celia, can you help with that?
Yeah, I just have to amend what I printed out tonight, but it's Sean's the signatory. He and I
Okay.
can figure it out as I put it together.
Right, I'd be willing to,
Yeah, I think it's just
Appointing,
important
but,
to
yeah.
make the planning
With the
board aware that
details.
we've had this
Yeah.
discussion, that we're raising the concern for them to consider as part of their deliberations.
yes.
Yeah.
So moved?
I changed the motion, so.
You
Okay.
so moved.
That was
Second.
that was already moved and seconded.
Okay.
Fair enough. All those in favor?
Okay.
3-0. Chris, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay. All right. Okay, next we have the request to support a grant application for the purchase of the Zero Bowman Street property. Pardon me.
Can we actually take the one after that out of order? Because I know there are some folks trying to make it
Oh,
for
sure.
this agenda item.
Sure, let's, instead, we'll move ahead of that, the proposed staffing changes in the finance department, including amending the classification plan and approve administrative assistant payroll clerk job description, amend chief assessor job description to include interim finance director job duties, concur with the town manager assignment to John Steinberg of interim finance director duties, and amend the classification plan to include town accountant.
So, as you're aware, our finance director is leaving on Friday to return to his previous position, and so we have looked at the department, the full finance department, so inclusive of treasurer collector, town accountant, and assessing, to try to figure out what our next steps will be. So, the first action for the board is I am recommending that our chief assessor, John Steinberg, serve as an interim finance director role. John has been with the town for 12 years. He's provided leadership during the transition, though he wasn't in that finance director position. And so I think we'll be a good partner as we move forward in terms of advertising positions and getting the finance department to where it'll be an attractive position for a future finance director. So the steps to doing that would be to amend the chief assessor job description. So you have in your packet proposed amendment to the job description, which is the addition, I'm just trying to find it, which is the addition of, where is that? Sorry.
I think it was in the executive, your email, not in the packet. It follows.
Oh.
Sorry. It follows that.
Yeah, it's just, there was already, okay. So the one line that would be added, where is it? It's not in here. So it would essentially add a line that says that that the chief assessor, on an as-needed basis, subject to the appointment of the town manager, with the concurrence of the select board, will serve as interim finance director. And so in order for us to move forward with this plan of having him serve as the interim finance director, we need to make this adjustment to the chief assessor job description. So if you want to take that up first.
Sure. I move to amend the chief assessor job description as presented.
Second.
Right. All those in favor? 3-0.
Okay. So inclusive in the finance director position is also the town accountant position, and that has required the board to have concurrence in the appointment of the finance director. In this particular situation, John would not be serving as our town accountant, but as our finance director, and as the subject to the amendment we just made, the board would needs to concur with my appointment of assigning him the duties of interim finance director.
So I would move to assign the interim finance director duties to Chief Assessor John Steinberg.
Second.
Okay. Questions? All those in favor? 3-0.
So prior to the public portion of this meeting, the board was in executive session. We did execute an agreement to be signed by John and myself, an employment agreement for this interim finance director service, and so that is that is to pay him at the top step of the finance director pay scale, with a weekly stipend of $225 a week. So that's really addressing our current concern about not having finance director in that position. And so, we really thank John for being willing to step up and do really, I really am excited to sort of address all of the finance department with him and with Kim. In looking at the rest of the finance department, we had already included in the FY25 budget the addition of a payroll clerk or in the treasurer collector's office. One thing that had been identified when Jason first got here is the concern about when we're looking at comparable communities, our finance department is understaffed compared to a lot of our comparable communities. And so in the FY25 budget, you'll note that in addition to the payroll clerk, we've also recommended, and I've talked about before at the budget summit, the creation or the separation of that town accountant position from the finance director position. And so we would create a town accountant position also in FY25. Both of those positions were recommended to be funded at half the year, so they wouldn't have started until January 1st of 2025. Given where we're at right now, I'm recommending that we move forward immediately with the payroll position. And so we do have funds in the current finance department that would be able to pay for that position through the end of the year. And so you have a job description in your packet for that new position. And so this would require approval of the job description as well as approval of the amendment to the classification plan to create that position at an N13. So I should say that this would also require us to amend the budget for FY25 to add the payroll clerk, and also, well, I guess I'll move forward with that. So that would require us to amend that budget, which is approximately $30,000 more than what's proposed for FY25 for that position.
So I move to amend the classification plan to include an administrative assistant / payroll clerk in the Treasurer Collector's Office, and further to approve the job description as presented.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? 3-0.
So other updates related to the finance department, you know that we currently are without a permanent treasurer collector. So we do have contracted services through the contract that you had approved with Stephen Price. So he's continuing to serve on an interim basis. We have recently held interviews with treasurer collector candidates, and we hope to be able to make an offer. Additionally, we will also need to find interim town accountant services. So we have reached out to a couple different firms as well as retired town accountants, and so we'll be working with all of those contacts to develop an interim town accountant plan, and that will have to come back before you for your concurrence as well. That being said, we would like to start the town accountant position after town meeting as a separate position. The reason that we would need to wait till after town meeting is that there's a bylaw currently that marries the town accountant position with the finance director position. So we would need to amend that bylaw in order to create the two separate positions. And you'll see that as we talk about the town meeting warrant.
So I would move to amend the classification plan to include a town accountant position, S7 in the finance department.
Second.
All those in favor? 3-0.
So I just want to, Chrissy, thank you, Kim, for all the work. This has not been without, I'm sure, a lot of pain and long nights. And I want to thank John, he's here, for stepping up and being willing to serve in that role, and done a great job in the past 12 years. So really appreciate that. I mean, this is, this is not, on the one hand, not a great place to be. And so I certainly feel for everyone, the departments that are impacted by this, but it also represents a great opportunity. And I know from talking with you, you're approaching it in that way. And with every painful change comes that opportunity to really say, how do we fix this? And I think when, we were really blessed for many, many years to have a lot of stability in that office, but sometimes after that, you need that sort of like change and turning the earth over. So I think you guys are approaching it in the right way, and certainly have my full support.
Thanks.
Thank you. John, I don't know if you'd mind stepping up here for a second. You introduce yourself again with your new title.
Sure. This is John Steinberg, Interim Finance Director, Chief Assessor.
Jack of all trades.
Yeah, exactly. I'm excited about this opportunity, is the best I can say it. I think you hit it right on the head. This is a great opportunity for us to put in place some pieces that it presented some real deficiencies that we look forward to building up and creating some safeguards for the town to continue to receive money, pay money, and keep the machine rolling so that everyone gets paid.
No. John, thank you for being willing to do this.
No, like I
Much
said, I'm excited
appreciated.
for the opportunity, and until we get accounting services, I will make sure the bills get paid.
Excellent. Thank you. Have your pen ready.
I'm happy to answer any questions if you'd like.
No, thank you very much for stepping up.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Much appreciated. All right. Thank you.
Mark is here. I think, is Jennifer Miller? Mark, okay. So do you want to move on?
I was going to ask about AFC. They haven't.
For finance? No, I just made a presentation. Yeah. We can do the Bay State Common policy.
Oh, okay. All right. Bay State Common Use Policy.
Christy, before we do this, do I need to, recuse myself at all? No, okay.
No, I don't think
I'm
so.
just a member of the Rotary Club, so I didn't want to have there be any bias, but I've
Right.
sat here with other.
I don't think you have any personal benefit.
No, I don't.
To
I
this.
don't.
No. Okay.
A lot of volunteer hours.
Yeah.
So this request is to amend the Bay State Commons use policy. So we currently have rules and regulations related to the use of the Bay State Common. We were recently asked by the Rotary Club if they could hold the farmers market at Bay State Common. In addition to reviewing the policy, because we were talking about the sale of goods, we also asked town council to review the deed to make sure that we weren't running afoul of anything. So in terms of the review of the deed, it was clear that we could move forward with this, and we certainly will let our neighbors know if that ends up being your vote. But it is inconsistent with the town rules and regulations, and that's because the town rules and regulations currently prohibit the solicitation or sale of goods or services, except for an event by or for a nonprofit group with written permission of the town manager. So this is a nonprofit group, but the sale of goods and services is not happening. It is not the nonprofit group that is making those sales. And so I think in addition to making this change, this was suggested by town council. So in addition to making this change, which would allow us to put for the farmers market, I think it would also be consistent with some other events that we have on the
Arts and
Bay State
Common.
Common.
Yep.
Yep.
It's a common.
Yep.
So if I look at the amendment to the policy, right, I think should the accept have stayed in there? Solicitation, or, because it says propose.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Yes, sorry. So except with written permission by the town manager.
Okay.
Oh, I understand what you're saying.
So I would move to approve the amendment to the rules and regulations for Bay State Commons as presented.
Second. Sorry.
I wasn't sure if you didn't want to
Yeah,
second it.
no, it's okay.
All those in favor? 3-0. Thank you very much. Okay.
Jennifer's here now, so I think we can go
All
back
right,
to the.
great. Let's see, where was I?
Number 9.
Number 9. Yes. 9, request to support the grant application for purchase of 0 Bowman Street property. Select Board member Ian Johnson was not available to attend this evening. However, he did ask that we mention that were he here tonight, he would be recusing himself from this discussion due to his relationship with the seller. Thank you very much.
Good evening. All of you were provided some information in the packet with some background as far as the grant narrative, but just to give a little more background for people from...
Jen, we know you, but could you, for those who don't know you...
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, thank you.
Jennifer Miller, Conservation Director, and I also have Mark Silverberg from the Planning Board here tonight. He's also a representative, the chair with the Open Space and Preservation Committee. So through the Open Space and Preservation Committee, we've been looking at a parcel known as the Walker property. We started looking at it over the summer with representatives from the state and also Sudbury Valley trustees. It looks like at this point that the state will be pursuing potentially some parcels on the Upton side and that connect with Upton State Forest, so it makes more sense for them strategically. And because of that and the desire to preserve this property and have it available for open space and recreation purposes, so for passive use, we're pursuing a Land and Water Conservation Fund grant, or we would like to pursue and get your authorization to pursue that tonight. And this will also appear on the annual town meeting warrant.
Great, thank you very much. And there are some, I guess, some estimated costs associated with the land and how it would be, and how it potentially could be obtained by the town.
Yeah, and so I guess from our perspective, because we don't have the appraisal back yet, this is all moving very quickly because we're trying to pursue that Land and Water Conservation Fund grant. The appraisal isn't due. The application is due before the appraisal is due. So they give you a little bit more time because they require a yellow book appraisal, which is more involved. And so the estimates that we've provided are purely our estimates, and we feel like it's possible that the appraisal could come back, on either side of that. And so we don't want to mislead anybody. Those are just numbers so that we could start figuring out how much could SVT potentially contribute, how much would we be looking at from potentially through Walk-Up Robinson Trust. And so that's just to give a sense of what the breakdown would look like. And it is a reimbursement. The LWCF grant is a reimbursement program at 50%. So whatever that total appraised value comes back at, we would need to appropriate the full amount and then get a 50% reimbursement.
Would it be possible just to show that just for the public watching, the parcel? Because some folks might be saying, where is Zero Bowman anyway?
So, can I just say a few things? So, I know the current owner's name is Walker, but I believe she would want it to be referred to as the Ellis property, because I think that's the family that owned the land. I'm not sure if it's her maiden name, but they own the land since over 100 years. So,
Okay.
So I think if we memorialize it in any way with a plaque or some kind of recognition, and I think it'll reference the Ellis family.
Thank you for
But-
clarifying that, because when I
well,
was
just-
looking at the property and I read Walker, and then I was like, was it meant to say walk up? But
Yeah.
thank you.
No.
Thank you.
Although, if we use any of the Walk-Up Robinson Trust money, we do have to memorialize
Yes.
them as well. The other thing is I spoke with the appraiser earlier this week. We should have preliminary numbers on that within the next week or two, so we can try and finalize some of these numbers, get back in front of you before an article comes in, and also AFC. So we have to talk to the owner first. So, and then I'm trying to convene a meeting with Walk-Up Robinson Trust, but they are down to 3 members. We are scheduling an open space meeting next week to appoint a replacement for one of our members who, our former member is no longer on the open space committee, so we have to replace her. And then Rec Commission also has to name a replacement for Earl Story because he's no longer on the Rec Commission. We don't have a town treasurer, and there's 1 open seat at large seat. So we're down to 3 members, so we can't even have quorum on that committee yet. But hopefully we'll get that.
So a call for people interested in conservation
Well,
and
we
open
have
space.
openings on open space too.
Open
yeah.
space,
Yeah.
walk up, excellent.
Yeah. I think
And
that's
if you can't, Christie, then
While we're here, a reminder to everyone that open
thank you.
town appointments are all listed on the new town website.
Mhm.
So please feel free to take a look.
So I guess before we, Christie's pulling this up, I'm very supportive of this. I appreciate, I understand this to be a involved grant process, so thank you, Jennifer, for leading that effort, with Mark's encouragement, no doubt.
Yeah,
But
I have to thank them. They've really been supportive and helpful. Jen and
Jenny.
Jen and
Chris
Jenny,
as well.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, the other Jen.
Yeah. So without them, I would be treading water at best. So
Right. So I'm very supportive of this, seeing the connectivity to other portions of parcels of open space. I do think that, and I believe we have an article in the upcoming warrant to talk about stewardship, but I think we really need to think about, as a community, as we continue to add parcels, like how are we, I know that like Gary Bowman came before us around the Bowman area conservation and just saying kind of the wardens that, that they don't have enough of those. So how are we supporting kind of our open spaces as we're acquiring them? I mean, much of it is, right, it's passive use, and so if the trails are sort of clear, maybe it's okay, but there's a whole lot more that goes into that, particularly where we're around watershed areas. So I think we need to be mindful of that along with investments like this come other, I believe, future commitments to be responsible, kind of landowners.
just to point out, though, that the Sudbury Valley is going to participate in this, so I believe they would take some stewardship responsibility.
Great.
Although Jen may not want to give it up.
Well, I think just in general, I mean, even just in, I mean, I immediately go to like responsible dog owners on these property. I mean, not even just in terms of maintaining the land. So I just think we need to be aware of that as we're adding valuable open space.
Yeah.
Further south on the map.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know you were looking for that.
Keep going south to the Upton Town line. On the left, bottom left there,
It's not
Okay.
doing it anymore.
Where it says, well, there's more than one
Right
off,
above-
but it
yeah.
says off.
yeah, right above the search box is a,
Where that
Yep.
grade.
do you want me to come and click on?
Sure.
Yes. It's, it's to the right of the little triangle that says off.
Mhm.
There we go.
Okay, so this large parcel is the parcel we're talking about. Just to the south is the Upton Town line. That's the property that Jen had mentioned that the state is looking at. That would eventually, if that goes forward, we'd have a contiguous access to Upton State Forest with a existing trail system in place. We've walked, and you really have no idea when you're going from the state forest to private property right now. So it's a pretty exciting opportunity, I think. There's also actually, just to mention, there's a tiny little piece on the other side of the turnpike that's labeled off, and the owner has indicated that she'll just gift that to the town. It's a landlocked piece surrounded by Bowman Conservation Area. So that's really not part of this discussion, but I just want you to understand the generosity of the people we're dealing with on this.
Thank you.
Will there be parking? How would people access this property since it's on the other side of the Mass Pike?
So there is, on Bowman Street, there's frontage in a couple different spots. One of the spots, it's hard to see on this, but there's an existing barn.
Yes, that was
Um,
mentioned.
And so we would propose having a parking area by the barn, but that
Okay.
gets back to your initial stewardship aspect that you were speaking of. You know, obviously it'll take funding to develop that as
Yep.
well. And so we'd be looking at having like in the very beginning stages at least, some parking, a kiosk,
Yep.
getting the trails blazed, making sure that they're up to town standards and those sort of things.
Great. Exciting.
Additional questions about the parcel? It's 34 acres. There's a fair amount of wetlands that run through it. Those
Yeah.
wetlands include some streams. And it's 3 different unnamed streams that combine into one, and that feeds into the Sandra Pond Reservoir. So we also see this as, this is mapped as surface water supply protection area. And so we see this as helping to ensure the protection of that water supply as well.
Yeah, and we're really just looking for permission to apply for the grant or your authorization at this point. We're not, we're not going any further than that at this point.
Can I just ask, you've mentioned a stewardship warrant article. I guess I'm just not clear.
Maybe I'm calling it something that it's not.
I just want to make sure that we have everything that, I know that we had talked about including some funding within the article. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something.
Are you talking about the funding the open space plan? Is that on?
The open space plan is in there, yeah.
Oh,
But-
goodness. Open my mouth.
Well, I guess I just wanted to make sure that we were on, that we had the right articles for this.
So there's not a stewardship, that I know of,
Okay.
a separate stewardship article in there, unless it was submitted by like,
Something from community development.
We can go through it after. Before they left, I just wanted to make sure I knew what we were.
maybe, is that, Christy, would that be in the budget?
So Jen,
The-
Jenny
that
Jenkins
aspect.
Yeah, that's in
just-
the budget, yeah.
that's
Oh, that's where you read it.
Sorry,
Okay,
sorry,
okay. No,
not
that's okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to make
So
sure
with
I
that
wasn't
resolved-
Too
missing
many
something.
big books in front of us and.
So-
Sorry.
No, it's
Thank you,
okay.
Christie. Yep.
With that clarified, I move to authorize application for the Land and Water Conservation Fund for the purchase of 0 Bowman Street, and further to authorize the chair to execute any documents related thereto.
Second.
All those in favor?
Thank you so
3-0.
much.
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
All right.
And Sheila has what needs to be signed, Sean, so we can get it over to
Okay.
them.
Should I do it right now while they're here? Or?
Jen, do you want to wait for the signature? Sean can sign it. Yes. No, yeah.
Two birds.
Don't say it.
I know. Why would you say that?
Sorry. Sorry. Okay, Amanda. We up to, I have us on 13, annual town meeting warrant.
Yes. So the warrant is in front of you. It got sent out earlier, or not much earlier, but just before the meeting. And so it's posted on the website and it's posted on social media, and it's fully available. So this is version 1, the first of many, probably. Though it is pretty robust. There's 27 articles. I just wanted to walk through it quickly with you, so we can make sure that we have the just see if there's any initial questions, and then just kind of talk about when you'll hear from the proponents. So we'll skip to Article 3. We do have a prior year bill. It's listed generally in case we find out we have more, but I do have highlighted the current prior year bill, which is a country club bill for food and beverage. The next is an adjustment to the golf club budget, and that's related to the superintendent contract. So that was determined after we put the, obviously, it was just recently determined in December, and so there's a small adjustment of about $2,700. We will need additional funding for the legal expenses for fiscal '24. I don't have an amount yet. We actually will go, it's in my town manager report, but we're gonna have to go to the finance committee for reserve fund transfer before we get to town meeting for the legal budget. FY25 is operating budget. The budget hearing will be on the 23rd, so I'll present that to the board. And then we'll have the budget summit on the 25th with the finance committee. One of the things that we did this year that you probably saw in the budget message is that we actually moved elections and the elections budget out of the budget. We will still have elections, but the purpose of this was sort of twofold. We were trying to identify some items that could be appropriately funded through free cash. This one felt like a really good opportunity to do that for a couple of reasons. One is there's a lot of variability in that budget. It changes year to year based on how many elections we have, how many town meetings we have. And so that would remove that variability from the operating budget, and therefore remove that variability from what folks are taxed for. Also, in talking it through, the town does receive money after the fact from the state for the unfunded mandates related to the extended hours of and early voting and all of that. That money, because we get it after the fact, and the way that it comes in is a general fund revenue, it just closes out to free cash. So even though it doesn't fully cover our expenses related to elections, it would essentially be applying that funding at the next year. Then we have Article 8, which regulated recurring articles, so the development of reserve funds, Sandra Pond, these are ones we see all the time, the cable TV budget, the block party, hazardous waste day. We said last year we would make that a new regular recurring article. Same with the small business grant program for economic development, so that's in here as well. And then one that is a regularly recurring but we don't see as often is the tuition reimbursement. And that's just dependent on what the balance is of that article. And we've actually, we do tuition reimbursement based on union contracts. And we ask everyone who anticipates taking classes in the next fiscal year, and so we've determined that we do need additional funding for $49,000 for that article.
The text of this has a different number. Doesn't match the 49,000, 7,200.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Version 2.
I'm sorry, Christy, that's in addition to?
Yeah, so the current balance is, I think by the end of the fiscal year, we anticipate, based on what we already know folks are taking,
Yep.
they'll be at about 15,000. We try to keep it around 30,000, but we've been told that to expect up to 49,000. So this one, because it's an article, we're able to use it year to year. So it's a free cash article. This year it's proposed as a free cash article, but we took it out of the budget again because of the variability of it, and also to make sure that the funds that are raised in one year could go through to the next year. Article 9 is the capital improvement plan. So a lot of these you'll see at the budget summit. So we have the town hall security, proponents emergency management, that's the fire chief. He's proposing it. He'll speak to it at the budget summit. Mobile column lifts for the fire department, ambulance replacement. The police chief will speak to the police vehicles, which there's also an error here. So it is 4 vehicles. He's already told me about it. So so this says 2 vehicles in the text, and then in the article information it says 4. It's supposed to be 4. Then the next one is administrative vehicle replacement, because we created a couple years ago that fleet and facilities position, which we moved our buildings and ground supervisor to. This has really become the responsibility of that position, and so it's in DPW. So this article, it's proposed by DPW. They can answer questions about the actual vehicles, but it's for Public Works, Board of Health, and Health Department. So it funds 3 vehicles, and so if there's questions about the use of it, building and health could answer questions, but DPW will talk about that as well at the summit. So the next couple are additional DPW equipment proposed to be funded either through free cash or retained earnings, depending on how they're used. The Recreation Department has 2 capital items, both proposed to be funded for the golf club through retained earnings.
Christy, can I just ask
Yep.
a question back on letter E, the admin vehicles? I know in the past we've had conversations about how our vehicle purchasing, complies with our green communities. This doesn't include language. Is it presumed that that's just something we're operating under?
It is a policy that we have, so
Right.
we do follow the policy, but you're right, it doesn't speak to it.
Okay, okay. I don't know if that will be raised as a question.
Is that something you'd just like to see in the article information, saying the vehicles would be procured under
Yeah, that we
existing
have a
policies
policy
related
that
to
we,
green
right,
community?
right. And I think as always, we've seen that it's based on kind of availability and performance and based on what the vehicle's required to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
That came up during the capital discussion, capital committee meeting discussion.
Thanks.
Yeah, so you can add that. So skipping to page 8, there are 5 high school articles. So 3 are for the high school. There's 2 additional ones for the school. These are really related to the roofs at the schools. And then the last one is the Hastings ADA, which we've been talking about for a while. My understanding, and Kim can correct me, that the $5 million is a placeholder number. It's not an actual.
Are the others actuals at this point for?
I don't believe so, because all of them say that the funding would help with bid documents.
Okay.
The first few are for design
Yep.
and development of bid documents. But the 1.1 million, actually all of them, sorry, all of them are for design and development of bid documents based on an estimated cost of construction.
The
So-
projects are now being split, so you'll see design funding requests in year one. Once they have those design documents, can get a firm bid price, they'll come back with hopefully much more realistic pricing
Yep.
for the second year.
Okay.
So superintendent will talk about that on the 25th as well. Article 10 is a historical commission article. They're looking to survey more properties to determine historic and archaeological value. I had a conversation with them about adding that to the budget. I think it's more appropriately an article, so that they can, again, access that funding as they go. They are applying for a grant through the Mass Historic Commission, and so the sum of money that they are asking for has not been determined yet.
And this is also funding that potentially in the future could be through CPA, right?
I believe so, yeah.
I mean, I don't.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
it's
I
certainly
believe so.
historical preservation. So.
Yep,
Yep.
yep. Article 11 is the open space and recreation plan update. And that's again a sum of money because they don't have a number quite yet. The Article 12 is
Sorry, so Christy, for 11, this is something that is required.
Yes.
This isn't like a strategic,
correct. Yep, yep. So we have to do an update to the strategic plan or the open space plan that I think was last done in
Who requires it?
the state.
Oh, executive energy. Okay.
Yep.
Got it. Interesting.
Yeah, and it's also, it says it in here, but that is something that they ask you often.
Oh, for
on
state grants.
Yeah.
I just saw that. Yep.
For Article 12, Sustainable Westborough and Community Development are looking for a municipal decarbonization study. They're also getting a final amount, so that's also listed as a sum of money. And then we have a placeholder article from DPW for the Cedar Swamp watershed flood mitigation. So we don't have an amount. I don't even have an article.
Just a holder.
Yep. Article 14 is the library building improvements and design. This article I'm going to work with Maureen on, but I haven't been able to connect with her. So I drafted this, so there could be changes to this, but there's not an exact amount that I'm aware of yet, but that would be put into here. Article 15 is what we just discussed with Mark and Silverberg and Jennifer Miller, which is the acquisition of the property. And this, again, is a sum of money because they're waiting for that appraisal. And again, as Jen mentioned, we would need to fund the entire purchase and get reimbursed. Article 16 is a transfer of 45 High Street Extension to the Affordable Housing Trust. You can probably get someone in here to speak to that at some point.
Yeah. It's revocable, the way we're wording it.
Oh,
We're-
if it doesn't work. Why
Yeah,
is it?
so we can't go before conservation.
Right.
Or the permitting process unless we control the property. And we have concepts that we think are viable. So this would allow the select board to transfer to us with a period during which the select board, if it decides there's another municipal purpose, can force a transfer back to the town.
Got
So it'll be fun.
The next few articles are improvements to water and sewer system. I think it's just important to point out they're not within the capital planning article because we've always held these separately, but they did go through the process, correct? Yeah. So town water management improvements. These are all, Chris will talk about all of these.
Chris, just for feedback, since they did go through that process, it might be worth mentioning that in the article information.
Okay.
Our road acceptances.
Yep, so that goes through Article 20, which are water and sewer improvements, which Chris will talk about on the 25th. Also, the 2 road acceptances are on here that you just discussed. Article 23 is the general bylaw amendment that I had mentioned previously, which would just remove that town account responsibility from the finance director. And then Similarly, I'm proposing that we remove, right now, our community development director is also our building commissioner. I don't have in a budget the creation of a separate position, but this would create that flexibility if we were to ever, or to put that forward. So this just changes it from, it's actually kind of flexible now, where it says that it may also perform the functions of the building commissioner. This just makes it more broad, so that they may perform other functions, they may not. Really similarly looking at this position, understanding that it was a department head position that we elevated, just trying to be prepared.
Yep.
And then Article 25 is a proposed bylaw change from the Historic Commission. It's about a page, but it's really only that one change. They wanted to give themselves more time to act on a demolition permit, so going from 15 to 30 days. And then,
And you don't need to know when, like, that would be when I'd want to understand more about.
yeah, so we'll have them come in and talk about
Okay.
both of their
Yeah.
articles.
Okay, thanks.
Conservation Commission, we'll probably have them in separately as well to talk about the wetlands protection, non-zoning bylaw. This is, Jen will be able to walk through what the differences are, but because there was so much, even just reorganization of the bylaw,
Yeah.
the proposal is to strike the existing and replace it with this. It's just it's a lot easier to read, but I know that she has documentation showing like all the red lines.
Okay.
And that's many pages. And then Article 27, is the next one, did I mess up the numbering? Oh, no. Article 27, that is a zoning bylaw amendment, and that's related to the MBTA communities multifamily. And so this is being proposed by the planning department. I know they've had some meetings about it, some public meetings about it, and right now that is the last article, though I just heard from Jenny Gingras that there will likely be one additional zoning article. So. That's it.
That's the,
So, given John Steinberg's additional responsibility, the trust was actually looking at a bylaw request for the new, related to the new housing bond bill. It's a bylaw that lets us set up rules for tax exemptions for affordable units, rental units. But we'll put that off for at least till fall town meeting. So that won't be coming.
Bring it on.
No, it would.
Christie, I know the 9th was the date for, so
Yeah.
can articles be added at this point?
Yeah, so so thanks. So
Yeah.
I did send an email in December saying that 9th was the date. I like to have set a time deadline that's around your first meeting in January, so I can give you as much as I can
Yep.
get. But certainly folks can add articles until the warrant closes. We typically close the warrant, or historically we've closed the warrant at the second meeting in February. By law, it has to be posted 7 days in advance of annual town meeting. So because, or sorry,
14.
14, sorry, 7 is special. So, no. Either way, we used to do it the second meeting in February so that we could make the deadline. Now that a couple years ago we changed the timing of town meeting, and so we actually do have some additional time, but we do still typically close the second meeting in February, which is good because it gives us a little time for the community to review the warrant as it will be presented at town meeting.
Thank you.
That's
I
it.
suppose there aren't any other additional questions? There'll certainly be multiple opportunities over the next month to come up with questions.
It was it is 7 days prior to town meeting.
It is 7 days.
It's 14 special.
But, okay, so that was item 13. Item 14. Approve the meeting minutes of December 7th, December 12th, December 18th, and December 20th of 2023.
So moved?
Second?
All those in favor? Thank you, Sheila.
Yes, thank you so much. It's like a Christmas gift or something.
And pardon me, and now we are on to the town manager's report.
Yep. So yesterday, the January edition of the newsletter was distributed, so you can check that out online or on Facebook. Interested residents are encouraged to sign up to be on the distribution list, so you get it right to your email or your mailbox. The community center departments are still working toward that March 15th closing date for the community center. In preparation for taking ownership, we're also working to develop that RFP for the public engagement and design. That will come to the board as a draft at the next meeting, January 23rd. Waste management, we're seeking quotes for multiple programs as provided by the Waste Management Exploratory Committee, and we're also working with the Department of Environmental Protection through our technical assistance grant. As I mentioned before, the legal budget, we will need to go to Advisory Finance Committee for a reserve fund transfer and then to town meeting for an article. And then licenses and permits, all businesses who hold a liquor license, common victualler, innkeeper, hotel, lodging house, car dealer, and other miscellaneous permits were successful in receiving those, except for the ones that were just before us. Oh, I guess they were too as well, sorry. Sabatini's on South Street chose not to renew their wine malt license, and Mexicali on Lyman and Dunkin' Donuts on Milk Street did close, so they did not renew their respective licenses. For the 2024 licenses, total revenue collected was $86,200. And then there's a listing of how that breaks down for different types of licenses. We also had a resignation on the Youth Commission, so we do have an opening for an adult member. And then the Employee Excellence Award for December was awarded to Andy Bowling, the electrician in the DPW. The Board of Health is holding a public hearing for their updated hauler regulations on January 30th at 5:45 p.m. in Memorial Hall. They also held a well-attended COVID-19 clinic on December 19th for ages 12 to 18. And then they're reminding the public that COVID-19 and RSV and influenza are very high, so please protect yourself by washing your hands, using hand sanitizer. The DPW is working with Town Council to draft a document that clarifies the town's position on allocation of sewer flow. So this will serve as interim guidance while the comprehensive wastewater study is underway and will be presented to the board when it's ready for approval. They're also implementing a pilot program that introduces advanced metering infrastructure, or AMI, for the water system. This allows for remote collection of water use data, and over time will improve billing and leak detection. And then, as we discussed earlier, the lead service line inventory survey is ongoing, so residents continue to be encouraged to participate by going to the DPW homepage of the town website. The fire department was the recipient of an emergency management performance grant from MEMA in the amount of $5,100. They're using that to improve the health and safety of firefighters. This month is Firefighter Cancer Awareness Month, and the department is training with Westborough-based Detect Together. Firefighters have a 9% greater risk of developing cancer and 14% greater risk of dying from cancer than the general population. So we appreciate the local businessman, Jim Coughlin, who started this initiative for his support of first responders, and we're thankful for the opportunities he's providing. And then the police department, repairs from the water damage related to the recent fire in the lobby continue throughout the sections of the first floor and basement. The department is very happy to announce Emma Siegel from the Advocates has been assigned to our new full-time co-response clinician. After having the position vacant for over a year, it's great to have Emma on board.
That's great.
And then finally, investigators are currently doing a background investigation of a prospective new hire to fill the last remaining departmental vacancy. That's it.
Thank you very much. With that, we move on to issues and correspondence of the Select Board.
Okay,
Would
I'll
you
be
care to start?
really quick
Thank
with the first substantial snow in about 2 years. Certainly want to say kudos to the DPW and other town staff and departments for the work to clear the streets, sidewalks, and make sure everyone was safe, particularly as there weren't any huge power outages, but there were several, many small ones with tree limbs and trees down throughout town. Also want to thank residents who took the initiative to clear out the fire hydrants, and given the amount of rain we're expected to have tonight, the storm drains around, near their property. That help is always appreciated.
Okay, thank you very much.
I would just add to that also, amidst the storm was a water main break.
Oh, that's right.
Over on, I forget
Kings
now.
Grant?
Kings Grant, thank you. And I actually saw a Facebook post thanking DPW for the quick notice and collaboration with public safety. So real great teamwork and appreciation for how all of that was handled amidst an impending and active snowstorm. So, and I don't have anything tonight.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Shelby. A couple of things. So our Economic Development Committee has a program that's available. It is called the Small Business Recovery ARPA Grant Program. And applications are currently available. If you are interested, please go to the town website, and you can find it underneath the Economic Development Committee. I believe it is up to $5,000. And it goes towards folks who were in business prior to 2020 who were impacted by COVID, and covers many different costs. If you believe your business is available, please reach out to the Economic Development Coordinator. And then also, papers are due the 22nd?
23rd, I think.
23rd. If you are interested in running for office in this year's town elections,
Well, that's the last day you can pull papers.
you can pull, I think, by the 19th, you got to pull by.
Check with the town clerk.
Please check with the town clerk, but if you're interested, the deadline is coming up. Thank you to all those who are deciding to run or involved.
And I'm remiss, I have a couple of connects. Were you going
No,
to speak
go
to
right
that?
ahead.
So I just want to let folks know that the 6th Annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Community Celebration will take place on Monday, January 15th from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. And that is at the high school. It's going to be down in the cafeteria. It's for both adults and children. You can go to westboroughconnects.org/programs for more information, and hope everyone can attend. It's free and sounds like it's going to be a great program.
Thank you, Shelby. And with that, can I get a motion?
Yes. I need to take a sip of water for this. I move to enter into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the firefighters and clerical unions if the chair determines that an open meeting would have a detrimental impact on the board's position. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, R.E. Ferris Development Group, LLC versus Town of Westborough, Lax Media, LLC, and Lax Media, M.A., LLC, Worcester Superior Court, case number 2285CV01281, if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the town's litigating position. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, RE Town of Westborough versus Westborough SPE, LLC, Boston Suffolk County Land Court, case number 19TL000768, if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the town's litigating position. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, RE Westborough SPE, LLC versus Town of Westborough et al., U.S. District Courts, case number 4:23 CV12017-MRG, if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the town's litigating position. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation regarding Westborough SPE LLC U.S. Bankruptcy Court Case number 23-40709 if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the town's litigating position. And under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, to act under the authority of the Select Board to approve executive session minutes of December 7, 2023, December 12, 2023, December 18, 2023, December 20, 2023.
Second.
Oh, well,
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Shelby. I declare that an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the board's negotiating, litigating, and bargaining position. The board will not be reconvening in open session after this executive session. Can I get a second?
Edinburgh seconds.
Roll call vote.
Edinburgh, yes.
Marshall, yes.
Keough, yes. We are adjourned. Thank you, Westborough TV.